Hi, and welcome to episode 4 of Real Estate Unleashed podcast. I am your host, Bridget Quinn. You can find me on social media at bquinnrealtor.
And I'm Regan Hildebrand, and you can find me on social media at Regan. Welcome, Bridget.
Welcome. We keep moving along greatly.
Episode 4. It feels like we were just here.
We were just here pretty recently. So today, in honor of episode 4, I am rocking the Vader is coming.
Vader's coming.
Look busy. I'm sad to say no Sopranos shirt today.
I ran out of Sopranos shirts. Gotta wait to be restocked. So episode 4, we're going to be talking about homes a little bit.
Hopefully your new home, how to get it,
Yep.
What you can do, some tips and tricks along the way.
I imagine there's plenty of people that would be listening that either in that process, finding a home, or maybe have already gone through that process. I remember when I bought my first home, it was a whirlwind, and I don't look back and remember much.
Well, I always think your first home is always a whirlwind. Again, same as you. Couldn't remember half of this stuff, and then we go through real estate school and do several transactions where we are now, and it's completely different.
Hindsight's 2020, and everyone always thinks, I wish I could go back and do that differently, this differently. Everything, you have, I don't want to call it regrets, but if you could do it over again, you could get a mulligan. There's probably some stuff.
Well, you have nuggets of wisdom along the way, right? And from those, you learn, you grow, and hopefully, we've learned from mistakes, and so our clients will benefit from that going forward to try not to make them as well. So
yeah, you can get a little bit of not buyer's remorse, but just that overwhelming feeling of, did I do the right thing?
Right.
Did I make the right choice?
And I think every buyer goes through that in some degree, right? Is this the right decision? It's not a small purchase by any means. It's the largest purchase that you're going to make in your lifetime.
For most people, that the home buying experience is the biggest financial decision you've made up until that point. It might be a bigger house down the road, or maybe that yacht that you get further down the road.
Maybe I'll purchase a second home that's on the Death Star.
Yeah. So you want to be careful where you choose your real estate. Not in a war zone.
Alderaan that goes boom. Sorry, lots
real
of Star
estate
Wars
prices have
today.
plummeted in Alderaan.
Help me, Obi-Wan.
So I think that's the key takeaway, is that everyone looks back and says, I wish I could do better. So what can we kind of talk about to maybe help? If you're the first time buyer, maybe you're the second or third time buyer and just want to know how I could do it better again.
If this is multiple purchases, you probably don't remember your first transaction very well.
Not vividly. And
maybe you didn't have as great as realtors as us, so maybe the process was a little different.
Yeah, and I in particular made the mistake of going the FSBO route when I purchased my first home. Would you like to
explain what FSBO is?
For sale by owner. So it was more of a there were a lot of handshake agreements during that process. Gentlemen's agreements. You can look back and think a lot of things wish I'd known or still don't know.
Live and learn. So we can talk a little bit about that today and share some past trauma for ourselves. We do have
with
some
our own
PTSD
purchases and clients.
Buying houses ourselves. Yeah. Not to mention, trying to help the clients find the perfect home. So
yeah. So as an agent, Bridget, I don't want to put you on the spot here. You've got that one client who's just starting out, and they're a 10, but they don't have a pre-approval.
Oh, well, that's a negative 10, Regan.
10, yeah.
Because if you don't have a pre-approval, you're not working with a good lender, it's going to make the process very difficult. Mm-hmm. And you're going to waste a lot of time if you're not qualified, right? Because let's say that you think you're qualified for 400 and come to find out you're qualified for 3. That's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. And, that feeling of disappointment when you find out the truth, that's going to set you back.
Sure.
It's going to waste time. As a rule, I think most of us as agents, we have our own maybe one-off situations, but for the most part, we want a client to be pre-approved, not because we're afraid of wasting our time, we're afraid of wasting their time and setting people up for disappointment.
Absolutely. You know, you don't, as I like to say, you don't want to be house poor.
No.
You don't want to eat that beans and toast or that butter bread.
Butter bread's good. I don't know what you're talking about.
But you don't want to live on that because you can't afford, you know, keeping up with the Joneses, as they say. You don't want to you don't want to live somewhere you can't afford. We don't want to see you be, you know, foreclosed on in 6 months.
Yeah, the buying power piece for every buyer, potential buyer, to understand, you know, if you tell me that, well, I'm paying $1,500 a month in rent now, and that's what I want to pay in a house, well, I can maybe use some kind of calculations to get you in an idea of what that's going to look like, but there's so many factors that go into what $1,500 a month looks like for you as that particular buyer.
And we briefly touched base on that the last episode. You know, you have your homeowner's insurance, you have your taxes, property taxes that you have to pay. So again, that depends on county, city, where you're located, how much you're going to pay. But you're right.
And the type of loan that you have. So pairing people up with the right lender, I know we're going to have an episode about that, about the lending side, but just as far as when we talk about getting out there and shopping for a house, it's so important to know that you got to have a pre-approval in your pocket.
You do.
Or cash is still king.
Cash is always king.
And in this market, if you've got cash, you can be very, in many cases, you can have a lot more leverage on your side.
And we briefly talked about again last episode that there are entities out there that can assist you to make your loan appear like cash.
Right.
And again, that can be part of our future episode talking more about lending. But just so you know, this is why you want to work with us as realtors, because we have so many of these tools in our pocket, advice and good lenders, good contractors, good everything that can help you make this home buying process so much easier.
When people ask me, you know, like what value do you bring as an agent versus just opening doors and getting people in because they see real estate or realtors in particular as this dastardly union that has monopolized the industry.
We've got such bad raps from the media, from TV shows,
and from
everything.
our own, we shoot ourselves in the foot.
We
as
do.
an industry.
There's always those bad apples in every bunch, but
but you know, when people say that and then they say, "What do you value to bring?" I know for you and me in particular, we've always worked closely with ourselves and other agents in our firm to build up a database of trusted vendors. And when we say vendors, we mean everyone from the loan side all the way through the closing table.
And everybody in between.
And everybody after the fact, too. And we'll talk a little bit about that today, too, I'm sure, of even post-closing, you know, when people reach out and need things to help them with their home.
It happens, trust me. It's not just the day after or a week or two after. I've had clients who reach back out to me, you know, a couple months after going, hey, can you resend this to me? Or, hey, what do I do here? Mm-hmm. So it's still an ongoing process, not just once they have the keys.
Yeah, exactly. I had a client just last week that emailed me 2 years after purchasing. They weren't looking to sell or anything like that. They just had a question about wanting to know if had a recommendation for a different insurance agent that they could talk to. Absolutely. Be glad to give you several to shop.
So first things first, you know, the buyers, you guys need to get pre-approved or talk to us and we can help you go through that process. So that's kind of first and foremost on the process, right?
Yep. And once you've gotten that out of the way, from there on, most people are happy to hit the ground running, right?
Yes. They've already started that search way before this, but we kind of have to say, hey, you need to get approved first. Make sure you're approved before you don't want to look at $1 million house if you can only afford 3.
Right. Once you're in that shopping phase, and like you said, a lot of people are already out there. There's the big Z that everyone uses.
You know what we're talking about.
And you know, Zillow is a great tool for any consumer, but when you have a serious shopper, the problems that people run into with Zillow, I think frustrating is a light term to use, that actual home buyers run into. So off the top of my head, there's that one nasty Zillow piece.
Yeah.
The Zestimate.
The
Zestimate. Which gets a bad rap, but I mean, it's...
Well, you're only as good as the information you receive. And unfortunately, that site is not always up to date. It doesn't pull directly. I mean, it does, but it doesn't pull as accurate and as many sources as what we have.
Right. It's not a true...
You're not utilizing what we call the MLS, which is the multiple listing services that sends you, if you want 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, half an acre, we can set up that criteria and it will automatically email you with the houses that fit that need.
Yeah.
And so that's always going to be up to date from that second. So if it goes from active and now all of a sudden it's under contract, it'll immediately show that.
Right. And Zillow is a nationwide tool. And when you're dealing with a very microcosm type thing, which is local real estate markets, another thing that I've experienced is people say, well, Zillow says it's contingent, or Zillow says it's not under there's another word that sometimes pops up there. So many terms that Zillow will apply to.
So many different terms, and it depends. If you're talking on other sites that are very similar to that one, they'll say pending or contingent different things, and even between different MLSs, I know that there's another local one that's close to here that they have different terms as well for being under contract. So again, that's why it's important to work with us and utilize our services so that you can get the best, the most current, up-to-date information.
And the information that we can give you too is drilled in to such a... We know our clients. We know what they're looking for. And sometimes that changes through the process.
It does. If you go to an area, if you have a broader search, right? Say if you have within a county or two and say, okay, let's just search everything in here. And then maybe after you see a couple houses, you'd be like, you know what? This area or this particular city within the county is not really where I want to be. Can you take that off the list? And we can do that.
And we can drill it into the point of saying, and I have several clients that say, I don't want to be on well water. Right. Or I do want to be on well water and I don't want to be on city or county water.
Right.
And we have so much more information about things of that nature that you can't tweak in a Zillow or another large search engine that is almost too omnipresent in the whole country to be that drilled down.
As you say, we can drill down. I've had clients that have RVs or campers and that need to be in a no HOA neighborhood, and not only no HOA, they don't really want to have all these other restrictions that say, hey, you can't park your 40-foot trailer by the house. So there's other things that we need to have access to that I can research about that and look up, and if there's any covenants or anything like that,
deeded
that'll tell me
if
you can or can't.
And the other piece too, beyond all that MLS data, is that we as agents are scouring other sites in addition to MLS.
Right.
GIS, which is the counties, for most counties have a GIS website, which is that government information on the actual property itself. Which can give
helpful for us to find information again.
Deed records, flood status,
permits, boundaries,
you name it, right?
Everything, yep. It's super important.
If a client has a specific question about a property, that's information that we can drill into as part of that research. Any other sites as well, just pulling up the actual tax records to see what the taxes were in the previous year or the current year that were billed.
We want to give you the most up-to-date information as well, and then when you find the property you like, it's very specific, we're able to pass that along to the lender, so the lender's going to be able to input those property tax number information to help drill down that at the end of the day how much that payment is every month.
Yep.
So
very specific.
Very specific.
Searches that are designed to, again, make everything more efficient for us, but more importantly for the client side.
Let's work smart, not hard.
Yeah. Well, we'll work hard and smart.
Well, we do, but I mean, you don't need to repetitively do something. If I can streamline the process and everybody can get it done.
Yeah.
And have access, and it's It's just much easier.
It's so overwhelming, when everything's flooding at you, and we're in
Hopefully not
information age.
physically,
Hopefully
literally
not,
flooding.
yeah.
We don't want to be in a flood zone.
No. But we're trying to add that value to find the right house and get you in there. And then from that process of finding the right one,
The
one. And we came from a time when it was anyone to now it's the one.
The one. You're right.
And you can get into that house, submit an offer with all that information in mind.
Yep.
So in a market that has some leverage for buyers, it's important to take that in mind. So if we know more than another agent about a property,
Sure.
like if we know that there is a flood risk nearby,
Which could be extra insurance monies that you have to
Yep.
pay every month.
or if there's a road widening project in your front yard coming in 2 years.
Oh yeah, you want to know that could be a, maybe that house is a 9, but now they're gonna take half of your front yard. What does that make it?
Yeah.
Is that still something that you can deal with, or is that now a hard no?
Yeah, exactly. So all that information helps our buyers to make a much more informed decision, one that you're content with,
And you want to make sure that your agent is doing that for you. That's our obligation. That's our responsibility to look out for the clients as well as
Yep.
for ourselves,
Yeah,
to make sure that everybody's doing the right thing.
we have a not just a ethical obligation, but a legal obligation to disclose anything we can find out about a property that is within the realm of reason, right?
Sure.
We don't have to go out there and dig up the entire yard,
No.
but we're going to go above and beyond
Sure.
to make sure, again, it's
And
all the right
there's some
information.
things that are provided to us as a buyer's agent when you find the house. We can look at the disclosures that's provided by the sellers, that they should be filling out and telling you, hey, this is wrong, or hey, the roof was leaking in 2017, but it's been repaired, and we've got service documents to show that, or what have you. So we also will forward that information, as well as continue to do any sort of due diligence along the way.
Yeah, and so once you're under contract, speaking of due diligence,
Whoop.
the fun stuff begins.
That's when it starts.
I think we've already kind of laid out a little roadmap for some future episodes, and home inspections can definitely be an entire episode for just that discussion. But God help anybody who says, I don't want any home inspections in this market.
During the craziest of times, when I heard that in order for agents to get the offers accepted, that they had to waive their home inspection, I would never do that. I couldn't do that. And I honestly couldn't advise my clients to do that, because that is your opportunity to investigate, to inspect, and have everything done to
Yep.
make sure that that home truly fits your needs and was safe or whatever have you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're just going to waive that right, you don't...
You're putting so much at risk on
Even with new construction, I highly recommend to my clients to still get an inspection, because guess what? It's not going to always be 100%
No.
correct with the builder.
And
I
you
hate
can
to
say
tell
what
you
you
that,
want
but
about
it's
it.
not.
Builders will have a warranty in North Carolina. There's a standard 10-year structural warranty, but who wants to go through the headache of warranty work when a pre-drywall inspection, which is just a couple $100, will reveal to you if there are cracked joists, if there are joists with fungal growth on them already, which has happened more than
I
once
know.
to my clients.
But as you say, if you're doing, again, strictly speaking, new construction, if you can get in and do that pre-drywall, you have an opportunity to fix something that could, start to turn up 8, 9, 10. What happens if it's year 11?
Right. Or you're going to sell the house.
Or you're going to sell the house and you know that there's a defect.
And some warranties are transferable, but who wants to go through that headache of finding out later that you have a bad footing, or again, a cracked joist, or some other things that should have been fixed, not at the end, but at the halfway point, at the
Absolutely.
bare minimum. Yeah, so the inspection period, and we work with a lot of inspectors that have gained our trust by showing us good work, good thorough work. I know the question comes up all the time, why do I need a home inspection if there's a county building inspector that goes in there? I can speak from personal experience with the county code inspectors. These guys are overworked and underpaid, and God bless them, they do great work, but they are stretched thin, and they're coming in looking for code violations, and they only have a limited amount of time.
Well, sure. They're never going to find 100% of anything wrong,
and no
regardless.
one will, yeah.
Right? But the home inspectors are licensed and taught how to do that and how to find so many mistakes or things to look out for or areas of concern, and they'll address them. And so, again, we typically use a lot of the same ones all the time, or we offer those services from them because we do trust them.
Right. They've shown that they're competent and trustworthy. And, again, if I were going to go back through that process again anytime soon, I know that I've got the same database of people that I'd pull from. So that's very important to me as an agent. I'm not going to recommend or give you a list of names of competent vendors that I wouldn't want working for me as well. Yeah.
Well, it's like even with, homeowners insurance, I actually used one of our vendors as a test and how much money I can save by switching over to Geico. It feels like a commercial, but
that's our first sponsorship,
like
not really.
But no, it's I trust these people, so if I don't want my clients to go through that without me kind of seeing what they're like for myself.
Yep. Same thing. Yeah, exactly. And it goes beyond just the basic home inspectors. I've had clients that needed to get a building engineer involved because the inspection said this is beyond, or the inspector said beyond their scope, or there's just something that jumps out at you. And that's part of the experience too.
They have to be a general knowledge, right? They're not going to be very specific on, as you say, I need a structural engineer. That might not be their area of expertise, so they're going to recommend those services elsewhere.
Yep. And again, we're fortunate that we've got a good database also beyond just inspectors. I've got, structural engineers, even environmental engineers that I would go back to in a heartbeat because they've done good work for past clients. Sure. And I don't just go based on what I think. I always ask my clients, hey, what do you think about the work?
Well, at the end of the day, it's their decision.
Exactly.
And if they want to not have that inspected, it's their call, but we're going to obviously recommend what our professional expertise is.
Yep. So. And that whole process can be very nerve-wracking for a buyer.
Let's just say that the reports that the inspectors send out are very scary.
And those reports,
But they have to be because they're very thorough. They're, again, I know that this is going to be for a future episode, but they look worse than what they are.
It's
a lot of legal terms. It's a lot of
copy and paste.
It is,
that
but
has
it's
to
like,
be in
please,
there to cut CYA.
Right.
Every home inspector has a license that they're protecting by being so very thorough to the point of saying, this door doesn't close flush, and I have to tell you about it. Is it considered a defect? In North Carolina, yes, it is. Is it something that you should walk away from a deal over? No. But the home inspector has to give you that information, again, as a CYA to show that they're doing their job.
Right.
So, you're right. I've had 140-page PDF.
Well, especially in some of the older homes, too. Like, I know both of us have had some historic homes, so to speak, and those looked very scary.
Yep.
But when you drill down, and that's where, as agents, I kind of pride ourselves on explaining what this means and just everyday sense of things. Okay, this is, something to definitely be concerned about immediately, or this is something to, hey, you might want to make note of, or hey, you might want to get this serviced, or what have you, coming soon.
Right. And when it is the kind of thing that you do want to get serviced, and it is something that's in front of you as this needs to be addressed. It's not something you should turn away from.
Is it from that deferred maintenance?
It could be, the deferred maintenance of, a roof that had 15-year shingles that are now on year 30. Something of that nature. Or it's, a pier in the crawl space or something in the basement that is foundationally impacted. In
Held
those
up by one
cases,
brick.
yeah. Oh God, I can use an example of, because it doesn't have to do with clients. It has to do with my parents. So my parents live in a 120-year plus old. They don't even know how old it really is, but it's a farmhouse.
Sure.
And it's a 2-story brick farmhouse. And the deed says 1900. They're pretty sure it predates then.
Oh, I'm sure.
And they inherited that from my grandparents. And over the years, they've been doing the things they needed to kind of bring it up to par. And I just never forget going into, they have I wouldn't even call it a basement. It's like a root cellar.
Yeah.
That was dug out and, has old canning stuff in it. And
I think every root cellar around here always has old canning stuff.
yeah, I found 6-year-old canned turkey in one not too long ago. I have the pictures to show it.
Probably sad, but it's probably actually still okay.
People told me it was, so I don't know. I'm not eating it, but back. So the 120-year-old farmhouse, and literally the piers of, so in the root cellar you can stand up. It's about 8 feet high, but the crawl space is around it, so you can see into the crawl space from head level. And just looking in there, shining with a flashlight, and seeing literal rocks that are the piers. Like, it is just like river rocks, large.
It's starting to build up like Stonehenge.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a hinge that's holding up the house. And I'm like, well, that's why Grandma's house was always a little wobbly. And they got it fixed.
Hey, yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
And you see cast iron plumbing in there, all these things that just, they will scare the ever-loving crap out of you. And if it's on an inspection report and the inspector says, recommend having licensed professional contractor address, suddenly everything gets really like shaky. And if you're a first-time buyer,
literally
in some cases, if you're a first-time buyer and you see that, alarms are going off in your head.
Well, as I say, it's super overwhelming to look at these reports. I mean, I'm not going to lie. They've been overwhelming to me as an agent, just because of the sheer volume that some of them have for, some of these defects, which, whether or not they're true defects, sometimes a toilet rocking, is it an issue? Yes, but is it really? No.
Yeah, some things become so common that you start to understand as an agent that you will see this in 95% of the homes, whether it be a toilet, like you said, that's the seal needs a new wax seal. Well, that's a Lowe's trip. It's pretty simple.
Right.
Is it a DIY? It depends on your level of comfortability. But that kind of brings me to the next thing.
I can recommend a handyman for that.
Yeah. So there's so many things on there that they can be DIY. I would put them in 3 categories. And tell me if you agree. There's the DIY stuff.
Yeah.
If it's just a door latch.
Cosmetic. There's some wallpaper that's peeling.
Yeah, you got a door latch that's just a little crooked. Well, literally get yourself a 50-cent little kit from Lowe's and you can fix it yourself. Is it something like some downspouts need some of that 4-inch corrugated black piping to move the water away from the house? That's cheap. Grab it at Lowe's or Home Depot, wherever, and do it yourself.
Sure.
So I will put that in the first bucket. Then that second bucket is where I think it's just simple stuff, but you probably don't want to tackle it yourself.
Or you're just not handy, or you don't have the confidence to do it.
Or the time. I mean, time's also a piece for people.
For a lot of people, time is money, and they don't have the time to do it.
Yep.
So.
And, so with all those things like that, we're very fortunate in our own little sphere here that we have Bridget's husband. I'm going to put a little plug, make it more humble for her. Tony Quinn is a great handyman. He's done jobs for me personally. He's done jobs for my clients. I know you and him kind of like work off of each other in a lot of ways, because he does work for other real estate agents and others prospective sellers. So yeah, it's all intertwined, but the handyman aspect is probably where most people fall for a lot of stuff on a report. Like a lot of that things, it's just stuff that you want to address so it doesn't become deferred maintenance. But is it so much that you need to go out there and spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars?
Most of the time, no.
Most of the time, not. Yeah. So I think for most people that report is shocking, but then when you start like,
Well, and that's
like
and
that.
that's why I always tell clients too. Personally, for me, I like to. That's a in-face person to person meeting where I like to sit down and kind of go over the report and show what's going on, or here's my recommendations for that, or hey, you know what? Let's see if the seller can fix this, or hey, let's just ask for a credit, and I know that you guys can do it because you're confident in
Yep.
your skills enough that you can do it yourself.
Yep. And, again, I know we touched on it last time. We're in a market where it's not unreasonable to ask a seller to pitch in and help. Now, North Carolina is a as is state.
Buyers
Every
beware.
contract is written to say the home is sold as is. And unless there's something that was specifically hidden intentionally, you're probably not going to be able to force it. You can either negotiate it or you can walk away.
Right.
But yeah, for most things, it's a face-to-face conversation.
Yep.
Hammer it out, figure out, can we address this either now before closing, or is it something that we just want to table
Yep.
and kick over to our handyman, Tony, after the fact? Because yeah, some things you can get, and some things, if you're doing a 30-day closing, sometimes
there's
it's
time.
impossible to schedule.
But as
Anybody.
you say, like a professional with a normal professional, like my husband, or say you do need plumbing or whatnot, is they're not going to have availability in the next couple weeks. And if you're already a week and a half or 2 weeks in when you get the inspection, there's literally no
Little time.
way that they're going to have time to come back in a week to do it, unless it's
Right.
something small. And
Or if it's an emergency situation, if you've got a plumbing leak, then we've got people that are available at short notice, but it's going to cost you more for that since it's a rather urgent thing. So the things that aren't urgent, why not just take care of them post closing after you're already got the keys and everything? You can kind of schedule it in a not so urgent timely manner.
right.
So yeah, that first one, do it yourself. The second one being that whether it be handyman or maybe it's like you want to put a fence in the yard. These are small little things that you can schedule with small contractors. Then there's the big ones. Then there's the full-on renovations.
I need the bathroom
The F
completely
word.
demolished.
We need the F word, the flip. Flips.
Good and bad, right? Good and bad.
Well, yeah. So when you're dealing with flips that you're going into as a buyer, and in this TLC world of everything has to be farmhouse flipped, it's a jungle out there when it comes to looking at flips.
You have to, I think, as an agent, when you're dealing with flips or something that's been done as a flip, you have even more due diligence and more checking that we're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We're looking for permits. That's the biggest
That's
thing.
the biggest one. Yeah.
To make sure the work was permitted. Then we're
Up to
definitely
code, right? Yeah.
up to code. We're definitely not just taking somebody's word for that. We're checking with the county or whoever the code enforcement agency is locally for you. And certain things, every state and every county, every different little municipality has different regulations for
Right.
what requires a permit, and I
Yep.
think it's important to call out. So we're careful not to say, well, that work clearly needed to be permitted and it wasn't. We don't know that.
Right.
We have to check with the governing bodies to see if that's the case.
Again, this is why you want a realtor who's working on your behalf and,
And
doing
well-versed in
these
it.
things behind the scenes to make sure that it's done properly.
Yep. But then, and I just can't tangent off on that, but to come back to say, what if you're purchasing a house that does need some significant renovations?
Sure.
And I know, Bridget, you've personally been through a renovation on a personal property, so you know the process. And then on my end, my fiance is an interior designer, so I've helped out with seeing that kind of lens through that lens of the renovation as well. And when you're doing the full-on renovation, whether it's a bathroom or a kitchen remodel, or maybe you're gutting it down to the studs and starting from scratch in a house, well, almost from scratch, right?
Burn it down and start again.
Some of them feel like that. But when you're going that route, then you have to take in mind all those things we just talked about.
You do.
have to be the one to make sure everything's up to code, permitted, dotting all the I's and crossing all your T's. And it can be overwhelming there as well. But again, I think we have good resources.
We do.
Again, Tony, he's been through that process.
He has.
I've seen it put a few gray hairs on his head.
Yes, mine.
Yours as well.
From dealing with it. God bless.
But no matter what it is, the whole process from start to beginning, having someone that can give you value on that in that process, I think is really important. But
that's what it boils down to, is making sure that we're doing the homework and along the way and recommending those sort of services.
Right. And before, during, and after. I had another client that reached out to me looking for work to be done. Just, I think it was landscaping and fence installing and stuff. And I'm real happy to have.
Definitely know some good people in that.
Yeah, I'm happy to know people as well that do that. And then there's people that, I tried them out. Maybe not again.
You live, you learn.
You live, you learn. Yeah. But whatever it is, we hope that the listeners, the viewers out there, if you're in that process, if you're thinking about sticking your toes in the water of getting that house, that dream house, that you'll reach out to us with questions. If we didn't cover something, or if it needs more expounding upon, we're happy to do so. In the end, though.
Well, that's our whole goal, is to get you across the finish line.
Exactly.
Right? We help recommend these lenders to get you started with your pre-approval. We'll help find, the perfect house. We do the research, help make that decision that if it's good to go, and get you through the finish line and into that home with the keys, done and dusted.
Done. Yeah, exactly. And that's the end result, is that everyone should have some helping hand to get you across that finish line.
And hopefully it's a smooth transition.
Yep.
Throughout,
exactly.
And hopefully you're working with another great agent on the other side.
Yep.
Which, thankfully, I have worked with many great agents.
Yeah, we're lucky to have built
knock on wood, I hope that continues.
A good not only database of vendors, but also agents that we really like to work with.
Absolutely.
So, and if you're an agent listening out there, and you can be a good referral partner for us, absolutely reach out to us on social media.
Well, as you say, it's not just locally. We've reached out to other realtors in other states, other big cities.
You just had one in Indiana?
I recently had one in Indiana, and she was fantastic. Yeah. So, even if you're not local, we're happy to do the homework to reach out and vet these other agents to see if they're somebody who's maybe a copy of how we operate or how we work and different things to
Shares
make
the
sure
same
that they
mindset.
fit. Same mindset, right? Fit the bill for the client's need, because at the end of the day, it's all for the clients.
Yep.
So.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think that really is it's a good thorough examination of that first start, but there's so much more that we could say. And I think in the next episode, we'll dive into a little bit more of that process as well. Yeah. And thanks for, giving that insight from the wife of a handyman. However many gray hairs it puts on your head.
It's okay. All good.
All right. Well, thanks, Bridget. I think we touched on everything. Yeah. Again,
as I say before, don't forget to watch us on YouTube or listen in.
Like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube.
Subscribe,
please.
Share.
It helps the channel.
We hope it's not just for our past clients. It's for future clients. It's for other agents. It's just for anybody that wants to learn a little bit more about real estate.
Yep. And, to better the industry.
Absolutely. And again, I am Bridget Quinn, and you can find me on social media at BQuinn Realtor.
And I'm Regan Hildebrand. You can find me on social media at Regan.
And we'll see you next time.
Thanks.